Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Donna. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about post-traumatic stress disorder and fibromyalgia and whether or not they are linked. Now, first off, I have to say that I'm not a doctor. I don't have a PhD or whatever it is. And everything that I talk about today will only be off my experiences. But I do believe the two are linked. I was diagnosed with both just over 3 years ago now, both obviously PSTD and fibromyalgia. But I do believe with me that, and let's call it fibro for short, I do feel that I've had it for a very, very long time, and it was kind of sort of like a virus where it just lay dormant, if you know what I mean. And I had a I'm going to actually say that trauma actually with me set my fibromyalgia off as well. And obviously PSTD is trauma. But look, 3.5 years ago now, we had COVID hit us, and, it hit a lot of people hard. I know that. I obviously run my own business. I'm like a psychic consultant, so I couldn't see clients or anything like that. So that hit me really bad financially. My mum got really sick. She had a really bad fall. She was very elderly, very frail. She broke her hip. And this is, right in the middle of COVID when it first started, and we couldn't even go and see her in hospital because she had a temperature, and even though they said that was just stress related, like her 3 children, no one could go and see her, which was pretty sad, and she was obviously scared and alone. But to cut a long story short, she had a full hip replacement. Had to go into, obviously in hospital for 3 to 4 weeks, and then went into rehab for 6 weeks, I think it was. And she begged to go home, and we let her, and within 2 weeks she passed away. So I was obviously going through that, the trauma of losing my mum. Then within the next 3 months of that, I don't have any human babies, lost my human baby many years ago. So I now am a crazy cat lady. And me and my hubby both, we've got land here. We adopt and rescue cats and animals and things like that. I had one in particular, Oscar, his name was. He was like a child. He used to follow me everywhere. I couldn't even go to the bathroom on my own. And even when Mum had got sick and whatever, I used to go out and stay and take care of her a couple of days a week. Oscar had to come with me. Anyway, this is, probably he actually got sick while Mum was still here, but, just started off with a cold. And we had 2 cats that had the sneezing and runny eyes and everything. So Oscar absolutely hated the car, so I had to take Muffin to the vet and antibiotics. And I said, look, I've got another one at home. Can I have some to take home? And it was just the paste stuff, not a problem. Anyway, sorry, it wasn't Muffin, it was Pearl. We had 2 ragdolls. And yeah, within, the 5 days she was fine, but Oscar kept getting worse. So again, to cut a long story short, stuffed around by the vet, and he ended up having seizures. He couldn't breathe through his nose. I was begging them just to give him a steroid. They wouldn't. And we ended up going and seeing someone else. But by this stage, it was, a bit too late, and he had to have a CT scan and everything, and we had to take him to Melbourne, which was like an hour and a half away, and he cried all the way in the car. But the first thing the vet did was give him a steroid, which obviously he was able to breathe. And he stayed in overnight, and we picked him up the next day, and he was actually fine. And even spending the night in Melbourne, and mind you, we had to get a loan out to pay for this, which you do what you do for your kids, right? So we did that, and they said, we don't think he needs the CT scan, just take him home. And we took him home with steroids, and probably the second day he started having seizures again. and took him back again. And this time they did arrange for the CT scan, and yeah, he never woke up from the anaesthetic. Yeah, and that, I will never forget this. We buried him here. You know, hubby made me up a nice big grave so I could do a nice garden, and for probably 3 to 4 days I sat there and I didn't move. I was only coming in to go to bed and whatever, and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and I lost the plot. And it was then that, hubby said, I think you need to go and see someone. So the only doctor that I knew of was the one I used to go and take mum to. So even that alone was a traumatic experience, because obviously walking into the doctor's surgery and seeing the doctor, I broke down, and straight away she, diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm dyslexic as well, so I have trouble saying the letters. So, but I was at the stage where I couldn't move. I had days where I literally had to use my mum's walking stick. And I thought, well, and look, I'd had losses before. I'd lost my dad, my only child, my dad, my grandmother that basically raised me till I was about 5 or 6. I'd lost animals. I'd suffered trauma and loss before. But nothing was like this. It really wasn't. And did I mention that hubby also lost his full-time job as well? So yeah, we did it pretty tough. But it was very hard for me doing what I do. My day job is, I'm a psychic medium, so I help people. I've been doing that full time for 20 years, but even before then, I was always the type of person that, people were drawn to get help and advice and everything like that. And I remember thinking, and I've always been very, very strong and had to know everything out on my own. And I thought, no, I don't need help. But mainly went to the doctor because of the way I was physically feeling. And again, when I said earlier, I do feel my fibromyalgia. I'd had it for quite a while before I was diagnosed, and I just managed it. But, I don't want to be personal, but anyone with fibro will have the bowel problems, you know what I mean? Period problems, hormonal problems, weight gain, all that. And a lot of it I did put down to what I do as well, because being sensitive, picking up on everybody's energies. But it was, going to the doctor for me was like, oh my God. And then when she said, it sounds like you've got, PSTD, and I thought, okay, but with all the symptoms that you're reeling off, like I thought it was just, really bad depression, and I was just grieving really, really bad. And no, but like I said, I've been there and done that many times, but I never had the physical symptoms like I had, where, I get drained very easy doing what I do anyway. But the drainedness, the tiredness, it was, I could sleep 12 to 14 hours a day. And again, the depression and the sadness, but the physical body pains, like down the lower back, especially up the mid back, I just felt like everything had seized up, like it had all locked down, and I really had struggled moving. We've got back steps here. I fell down them twice. And each time I got to the bottom step, and it's like, what do I do? Like, the brain didn't know what to do, so I fell. And the second time I really hurt myself, I scraped my knee up really bad, and of course hurt my back and everything like that. So it made sense when she said, you've got fibromyalgia. And come to think of it, like it's something that I'd never really heard of, if you know what I mean. I'm pretty sure my dad was diagnosed with it, only a couple of months before he passed away, because he suddenly was fine and then ended up in a wheelchair. He just couldn't walk. And he, had every test known to man, MRIs, CTs, nothing was showing up. And then, of course, he got to the stage where he thought he was imagining it and going bonkers, if you know what I mean. And so did I. And yeah, so again, I guess what I am saying today is, I really do believe that the trauma and the PSTD and the fibro are linked. They're all related. And everyone else out there with PSTD, do you know what I mean? And I can't take it. I'm allergic to everything. I can't take any medications. I can't take antibiotics. I mean, and I've kind of sort of always been sensitive to things. I can't drink alcohol. I can't drink coffee. But since being diagnosed with the fibro and having, all the massive symptoms, it's gotten worse. It really has. I'm not now, but 10 years ago, I discovered I was celiac, and I can't eat gluten or wheat or anything like that. So yeah, can't take antibiotics. It's tripped me out. I had a tattoo done on my leg as a memorial for all my passed over loved ones. And my body reacted to that and rejected it. And I got flu-like symptoms. And these are all long before I was diagnosed, but I managed it. Do you know what I mean? And I'd have good days and bad days. But again, a lot of it I put down to energetic and obviously what I do. But yeah, I think it just took the doctor sitting there and the doctor saying, this is what you've got. But I'll never forget, driving home from the doctor, and I cried all the way home because then I felt, a lot of childhood stuff was cropping back up. You're a failure. You're never gonna be anything. Do you know what I mean? Why bother trying? You're only going to fail. And, I've always had that fear and carried it around with me for a long time. And I've just been diagnosed with child post-traumatic stress disorder. And Mum passing away, a lot of childhood crap kept cropping up, if you know what I mean, and I'll do another video on that. But driving home, I thought, that's it, I've lost the plot. I'm Looney Tunes, I'm a Fruit Loop, oh my God, what's my husband going to think? He's going to reject me, he's going to disown me, all these stupid things. And, and I did get that bad that I was actually suicidal. But my next step for that was to go and see a psychologist. And again, back in COVID days, I couldn't physically go and see one, which was probably a good thing because I am really kind of shy. And, so I did them all over the phone. And yeah, look, to an extent they helped, if you know what I mean. But I didn't know what to expect, I knew what they did. But, and not only that, the doctor wanted to medicate me, and I'm like, no, because I know I'm going to react to it. Do you know what I mean? And yeah. And anyone else out there that, has allergies to, medications and things like that, you don't, and it's not a matter of you psych yourself up and you think, no, I'm not going to take this, vitamin C pill because I'm going to have a bad reaction and I'm going to, break out in the sweats. I'm going to get sick. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to trip out, all that, because that is what medication does to me. I cannot take any opioid-based painkillers. In fact, I can only take one paracetamol, a 500 gram, and even that makes me all airy-fairy and woo, do you know what I mean? So, yeah. So, look, anyone else out there that, is watching this video, yeah, maybe, you might not have been diagnosed yet. But I really do believe the two are linked. And I do have a lot of clients come to me now, that have had a traumatic experience and, and the same deal. They've gone through grief before, they kind of sort of know what to expect. You go through the motions, the process, all that. But, normally a grieving process is, it's up here. It affects you mentally. But with, fibromyalgia, obviously that's the physical side of things. And again, I have days where I'm learning to live with it now. I'm actually seeing a physiotherapist. I have to go back to my psychology appointments, all that. But at least I'm, and again, having the farm and all the animals, it probably is a good thing for me, because they do say the worst thing you can do for fibromyalgia is not to do anything. So as hard as it is, every day I push myself. And I remain active, and obviously I've got to be with all the animals and everything like that. So yeah. But again, I wanted to make this video today for anyone else out there. You're not going crazy. And it, like, everyone handles grief differently. They do. Everyone handles trauma differently. But I do believe it just gets to the stage where the physical body is like, no, can't do, no, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore, and it has to crap itself. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and that's what's happened to me, and I've accepted it. I've learnt to put myself first for a change. I do not have a social life anymore. You fail, not fail, but you struggle to make plans, because you don't know from one day to the next how you're going to be feeling. So, and every single day now between 2:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. I have to sleep. I have to. Because again, those of you, with PTSD and fibromyalgia, you have shocking brain fog. And I've had long COVID as well, and that has brain fog with it. Do you know what I mean? So it's a real struggle. But yeah, look, there is help out there. There really is. Don't beat yourself up. It can be really, and it can be hard to explain to someone, like, even, with hubby, when I get that, and obviously, with fibro and all that, the more upset you get, the more stressed you get, the worse it gets, and they are called fibro flares. With me now, it's like my lower back, I can feel it. It just goes like that, and it knots, it fuses together, and then it'll start running up my spine, and then, I get the coldness. And I actually, probably about 6 weeks ago, I had to go and see a specialist that deals with fibromyalgia, and he did all the tests, and, I couldn't walk nearly for 3 days after, because he had me tied up like a bloody pretzel. But yeah, there was one test he did do, and it was just like a little, a metal wheel thing. And he said, hold it in your hand. And I did. And I'm like, okay. He said, how does it feel, hot or cold? I said, well, it feels kind of in between. Then he ran it up my arms, up the top of and I have a lot of problems up the top of my arms and the top of my back. And I was actually screaming. And I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? And it felt like, pardon me, he was just running, an ice cube. It was beyond cold. Do you know what I mean? And again, everyone out there with fibro, you would know that you have no internal thermometer. Pardon me, now I've got the hiccups. Oh, foods allergic to every bloody food out there you can imagine. I can't eat spices. I can't eat garlic. I can't. Sorry. Crap. I might have to pause this. Okay. And as I was saying, look, a lot of people have got fibro and don't know what it is. And it's very hard for a doctor these days to, to say, well, okay, to test for it, because there's no blood tests or anything like that, if you know what I mean. Basically, they've got to start ruling things out. But like I said, when the specialist did this test on me, he said, no, you've definitely got it, and it's quite a bad case because of how my body reacted to this little metal roller thing. It was like, oh my God. Yeah, so basically all I do is learn to live with it. I learn to deal with it. You can't control it, but you can ease it. Even now, like if I get really upset, it's like it's like a volcano. You can feel it. You feel it rise in your body, and you're no, okay, just chill. Just yeah, hubby does the thing with me. And I'm like, okay, because obviously having a lot of animals, a lot of cats, they do naughty things. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, they keep me on my toes, put it that way. So, yeah, but again, you're probably, those of you out there, again, you might have just suffered a trauma and you're going through the grieving process and you don't know whether this is normal or not because everyone handles grief differently. Or, everyone hurts differently or everyone reacts differently. But then when it starts to affect you physically, like, look, even with the, grief and all that, you do get depression. You have days where you don't want to get out of bed, all that. But it's when you physically can't. I started getting muscle spasms in my back where I could not move. I had to scream out for hubby to come and pull me out of bed. And I will never forget that, the pain. It's like, and it's very hard to describe to someone, the pain that you're feeling. It's not just, a sore thumb or, it's not like you've even had surgery where you need time to recover. With fibro, your body's not going to, you're not going to heal from that surgery, if that makes sense. So I describe it as an all over body toothache. That's how it feels. When you've just got that dull, nagging, pounding, and of course I get really bad late at night. But I find once I go to bed and just, I sit up in bed and prop myself up with pillows and watch my telly and all that, I find that helps. Even I'm allergic to most of the stuff that you rub in, like your deep heat and everything like that. I break out in blisters. I can't even wear a Band-Aid these days, and I break out in blisters from wearing a Band-Aid. So, yeah. So I just wanted to make this video today to, and again, I have a lot of clients coming to me that, what's wrong with me, Donna? I've been to the doctor, I've had every bloody test known to man. Nothing shows up, nothing. And then I'll pick up, well, okay, pick up they've gone through some trauma and that's triggered it, and away you go. So anyone else out there, that is struggling with that, or you're finding that you're getting all these aches and pains and, and I'm not getting any younger, and I put it down to that, if you know what I mean. But no, definitely, fibromyalgia. Look up the symptoms. I had to do the questionnaire and everyone was tick, 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 tick. So, yeah. But definitely look it up, research it. And I think you might be surprised. And also getting that diagnosis, you're kind of like, well, okay, it's not a good thing, but at least I know now what's wrong with me and I can learn to live with it and manage it. Okay, everyone, take care.